You're good. Just gotta find out the point.
It's on.
Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you please take a second, turn off electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Johanna, call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker,
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
As there are no special items for discussion, we'll move right into department head reports. Mr. Abbott, you want to begin?
I will begin.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I guess we've all seen that Amherst Avenue is now being torn up. Finally, we've resolved our arrangement with Lamberti's owner. We now have in process 588 feet of new bulkhead being constructed at our new elevation standards. This is part of our ongoing efforts to deal with the flooding issues and the various issues of public access and bulkheads along Amherst Avenue. And indeed, I was going to bring this to our last meeting. I thought you might have fun taking a look at it. Mr. Lamberti has now paid for the material list. We have proof of confirmation. If you go take a look down there, you'll see the street is torn up, so that 588 feet is starting. I know that you probably are aware of this, but I'll refresh your memory, give you a little history lesson and have some fun with it. This is Margate in 1920, when an inventor by the name of Fairchild took these fantastic aerial photographs of the South Jersey coast. I came aware of these photographs about a dozen years ago. They were a military project. State of New Jersey didn't even know about them when they created their riparian maps. What this shows, if you get a chance to take a close look at it, is Amherst Avenue didn't exist. It was all water. And in fact it was water even on what would be now the ocean side of Amherst Avenue. The city of Margate, you'll notice here too, there are some buildings actually built over the water on piling. Well, as time went by, Amherst Avenue was extended. This is Washington Avenue. That was the main thoroughfare back in 1920. And so eventually the city of Margate, with a couple of exceptions, purchased this area from the state of New Jersey, got a repairing grant. Some of you know I do a lot of repairing grant work. You got the repairing grant in the 20s, I believe it was the 20s, 1928 rather, they spent $68,000. We were able to find proof of that in the bonding when they actually built the first bulkhead, built Amherst Avenue. So since 1928, the primary bulkhead is now in terrible condition, or it was. Some properties, as you know, private property owners have replaced the bulkheads at our new standard. And now, as you go down there and look, you'll see that it's being replaced 588 feet, which is not at taxpayer expense. It's probably, when you add up street, sidewalk, the demolition, the filling in, I'd say over $1 million. Wouldn't you say, John? At least $1 million.
Yeah,
Yes, ready.
approaches $1 million. So you're telling me the bulkhead is 90 years old?
Some portions. Now, some were replaced over time. Some were replaced with very inferior materials. I know for a while there they used those CCA, that green stuff, that didn't really last 25 years. It didn't last. So, in fact, is I think Eddie and I are very familiar with it. I had to replace my bulkhead. It didn't last 30 years. But the original bulkhead, which was creosote, lasted for about a good 50 years. But as you know now, most of that bulkhead is shot in bad condition. So now this is an important step forward. Boom, we have it. I left this here. I thought you might enjoy looking at it as somebody would say, well, why are we so concerned? What are we doing? Because it was originally bulkhead and filled in. Now on tonight's agenda, we have a proposal from the Ponzio firm. The city had hired them to come up with a bulkhead design. Now we're moving forward with a design for the promenade and for the how to deal with the upland portion of that bulkhead. Mr. Deeney and I were talking about this earlier today. At this point in time, we're probably gonna have to now focus on how do we handle drainage in that area, how do we handle maintenance of that bulkhead in that area. And the big thing is, once we get the rest of this bulkhead built, we have to make sure that the water has an ability to get out. Some of these towns are implementing pretty extensive pumping systems. We've also talked about the environmental impact, maybe perhaps coming up with a filter system with some of the stormwater outlets that we have there. As we all know, we're becoming conscious of plastic problems and trash problems going into our bay waters and ocean waters. Well, now's the time. We have a new contract coming up with a design for the promenade, but we really ought to take into account, do we want to do something about elevating Amherst Avenue? How do we want to handle drainage, perhaps drainage areas? So it's something to move, but we are really moving forward and making pretty good progress on that. What else, Mayor? I think between last meeting and now, that's about it.
Dredge committee meeting?
Oh, yes, I've asked for a dredge committee meeting, hopefully next week, if we can coordinate our time. What we'd like to do is maybe have a luncheon, usually someplace local, Boca, I think this time. We get Dr. Farrell there, if I can get Roger, Eddie, and Joe in their office, the Jimmy Rotella, who's working on our grants. There's been some pretty good progress on utilizing of other dredge holes in Barnegat Bay that is very favorable to what we want to do. They're now filling in 2 dredge holes. And you know, if we're allowed to use these dredge holes, ours is Shelter Island, it really will reduce the cost of dredging, because now, instead of having to truck it out to a landfill or whatever, we put it back where it came from, back into the bay. So we'll have another meeting this week. Still never got those revised dredge regulations from the DEP. Remember, they talked about doing that. We gave them some, we even drafted some for them, but we'll see. Maybe we'll make some progress with this new regime. So that's it. It's all positive. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Jim?
Oh,
you got anything to say?
Do I have any question?
Pardon me?
May I ask Mr. Abbott a question?
You certainly may.
Well, to dredging, where are we, update me, or, because if I've forgotten, I know we're talking about the dredge hole as a very viable alternative. I know in Ocean City, they have just gotten permission to rebuild some of the wetlands that has deteriorated over the years. There's a huge island, maybe called Shooting Island, I'm not sure.
Shooting Island.
And the edges of it have deteriorated all the way around, which means many acres when you have such a big diameter, and they've gotten permission to rebuild those original edges and then fill that wetlands in. So is that like experimental still with them, or is that a possibility?
I see Roger's chafing at the
I'd like you to
dates of
talk
that
about
one,
it at
but-
your meeting.
Oh, great.
We will, and it's under construction now, actually.
Yes.
But the issue with reestablishing and maintaining the shoreline of Shooting Island is they're bringing in virgin material offshore. It's not just dredge material, so it is a very expensive undertaking, and they're using it under the guise of shoreline protection as a buffering for wave action,
Right.
which we could utilize at Shelter Island too.
We're making that argument as a part of our justification.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's all positive. It does seem that we have Ocean City, their efforts, Avalon's efforts, and Stone Harbor's efforts, Army Corps. Army Corps is actually backing our proposal, has encouraged us to move forward and try to use Shelter Island. So, you know, hopefully maybe the DEP will see the light and say, look, this is very reasonable. It's actually restoration of marine habitat, because right now, at the bottom of the 30-foot hole that's 4 acres, there isn't any marine habitat. Nothing lives down there. So that's where we're going, but hopefully we'll make some good progress this year.
Does that answer your question, Rich? Okay.
Thank you.
Jim?
Happy New Year, everybody. I decided to, on December 20th, I went over our office proceedings, so I put it into pen and paper and came up with a little summarization of last year. Working alongside Roger, we created and developed a process of taking in zoning permit applications, which can be found online on our website, margate-nj.com. Since October 4th, 2018, received 64 zoning permit applications. We just recently received our Class 5. You should be getting a letter from the CRS for another 25% reduction on your flood insurance. Last year, our office received 66 new construction permits and has overseen a demolition of 62 structures. Our dedicated team of subcode officials did over 4,000 inspections last year. That's quite a bit. We were available by phone, email, and we're also available by office to assist in any Margate residents who need any questions on permits, inspections, or flood safety. So, I have I'm redoing the fee schedule for next year, which we should do every other year, but we haven't done it since 2009, so it's overdue. If anybody has any questions about it, just let me know.
Jim, would you do me a favor and for the public, explain the CRS discount? I think
Sure.
that's very important. I don't know if most people are aware of that.
Okay, so on your premium you get every year from your flood insurance company, it should have a line item down there that says CRS. And that's a community rating system for deduction on your flood insurance. It should say 25%. You should see it, like a policy is $2,000. You should see somewhere on $250 on a reduction on your $2,000 policy. So please review your policies. If you have any questions, bring them in. I'll look them over, and we'll see if you're getting the deduction on your flood insurance.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Mayor, may I comment on the CRS, the community rating system? For our residents here, it doesn't come easy. There was a lot of work and effort put into it by our building department, and being proactive with raising homes and building new homes in the city. And for every new home that comes up to the FEMA base flood elevation on the maps that we have now adopted, adds to that, and it continually helps our residents out. The number 5 community rating is probably the highest on this island, if I'm correct in saying that.
Yes.
So Margate City, of all the municipalities on Absecon Island, has the highest rating. And it's been, I gotta thank Jim and his office staff for all the help they give the public and for all the work we've done through the years with our consultant, trying to fill out the applications and doing the proper paperwork under the FEMA guidelines to get to the point where we're at. And we're not stopping here. We're continuing as we improve bulkhead heights and bring everything up to the standards as we now know we have to live by on a barrier island is all critical to all of us. So I want to thank the work that your office does. You do a great job along with Roger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Jim, you done? Roger?
Happy New Year, everybody. Just to reiterate to what Jimmy was saying, to add on to that, we are requiring 2 base flood plus 3 to maximize the discounts from FEMA for the CRS program. No further comment.
Thank you. Ed?
Okay, and to further elaborate on that, everything that the city does in their capital improvement programs, storm pipes, new inlets, as well as what Public Works does in maintaining the system, that all goes into the CRS also. So it's being attacked from all different angles. I'm going to do the first item, and then Ed will take over. The vehicle ramp to Granville Avenue. Before the holidays, I met with
Do you
the,
have a copy?
Yeah, this, I don't think it was included in the packet.
Thank you.
before the holidays, we met with the Army Corps and the contractor regarding the vehicular access to the beach for both the construction that's going on and then what will happen afterwards. One of the items, the Granville Avenue vehicle ramp, which we have money allocated for to do construction, the suggestion has been to open up openings large enough for large vehicles to go through with some temporary barriers similar to our handicap access and eliminate the ramp. We'd also look at eliminating the ramp at Delavan and leaving the opening at Washington with a partial closure of it, just leaving a 4-foot open for residents, and then whenever we need to, we can remove the barriers. I spoke with the Army Corps, with Dan DePasquale this morning, and the one item that they have changed, which is good, At Delavan, they were going to open both Douglas and Delavan up for delivery of materials and machinery. They've determined they don't need to do Douglas, they're only going to do Delavan. And he marked out what's going to be opened up hopefully next week for them to start bringing material in. I'm going to go out there tomorrow with Ed and Joe Johnson, and we're going to determine what needs to be done to implement the temporary barrier system, and then come up with a design for that. Should be a simple project. I've actually got sketches I did over the holidays. So what that does is it leaves us money that was originally allocated for the Granville Avenue ramp to open up some more handicap openings in the bulkheads for handicap. Handicap access for, it's not only handicap, it's our aging population, it's our families with the little wagon and the 4 children. It opens up those areas for easier beach access. So that was a win-win, and the Army Corps has been working with me to try to get as much as we can, as many benefits out of this as we can. So we're going to keep working on that. But it was a lot of good ideas from all sides, and I think it's a good thing for the city.
Mayor, may I comment? Thank you. We did visit Longport, and we looked at what the Army Corps did at Longport, and I think it'll be very functional for us during our summer season for our trucks that are removing the trash from the beach via the loader will now be off the street and can be tucked in between the bulkhead and the dune out of foot traffic where it'll create a safe environment. So we did look at Longport's, and I think Longport's design is pretty close to what we're looking at. And I think it'll be a benefit to both Public Works, and we did talk about it a little bit at our last meeting. So I think it's a good plan. And Ed, you have a list currently of, I think we have a list created of the next handicap breaches we want to do in our bulkhead system. So I guess we would go from that list and work. How much money did we have in capital for that ramp on Granville?
It was a little over 100,000.
So we could do 4,
Probably
3?
3. And we have funding, we have state funding for 2 already.
So we could do 5 more. That would take us up to like 27.
It would help, because there are a lot of areas where we have ramps, but 2 blocks down, it's a little bit too far for people to walk, so we can fill in the holes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm just going to cover some of the highlights from our report here. Please jump in if you have any questions as I go through this. Mr. Abbott already touched on the Amherst Avenue Bulkhead Project. Obviously, we're making a lot of progress there. We have a 2017 state aid grant for Atlantic Avenue from Fredericksburg to Claremont. That job is in design and will be bid sometime in March. Our Safe Routes to School project, this is a federal grant that has a bid authorization deadline of February 15th. We have submitted our preliminary plans and estimates to DOT for approval. So as soon as what will happen is, because this is a federal aid project, the DOT will review our submission, they'll forward it up to the feds, and then as soon as the feds release our package, then we can go out to bid. So we are on schedule with that project. Moving on, reconstruction of Thurlow Avenue, Bayshore Drive West. That project has been surveyed. We'll have the base plans done by the middle of this month. GIS mapping, we had a meeting on December 18th that was very productive. There will be a follow-up meeting scheduled with Public Works and other folks here at City Hall to finish up with the first phase of that work, I guess you could call it. Under hazard mitigation funding, we are evaluating, there's some additional money available to perhaps do some additional work over at Firehouse 1, and we're putting together some cost information on that. Jumping down to our construction projects, one thing we added to our report here, and I don't know if everyone has a copy, and I think this will be helpful going forward, and we discussed this at past meetings. We've created a running list of all of our open maintenance bonds, so, and we'll be able to track those as we meet, and obviously schedule maintenance inspections. One that we discussed recently was an inspection at Historic City Hall, which we'll be scheduling to make sure we have all those items covered before the maintenance bonds expired. And we'll just keep a running list here on our report and,
Good
yep,
idea.
yep.
We're gonna try to get that one done, within the month, so that then the contractor's got plenty of time to comply, before the expiration.
Right, so right now we have 11 open maintenance bonds, and we'll just keep track of that list right here on our engineering report as we go through it. Moving along, Winchester Avenue, contractor is scheduled to return on Monday to finish up the utility work. Concrete work will follow the week after. The emergency generator at Historic City Hall, we did get word from the contractor today that the housing is scheduled to be ready by the end of February. I think we kind of knew going into this job, in fact, it's on my report here, that we were going to look at a time extension. There was just a long lead time for the housing, so I think we just got that email this afternoon.
Yes.
End of February, they will have the generator housing. Burke Avenue continues to move along. Concrete work started a couple weeks ago before the holidays. Well 8, the well cleaning is complete. We're just waiting for them to finish their work there. Water tank painting is scheduled to start in March. Curb and gutter program, we had our pre-construction meeting today. That project's moving along, and we sent an updated punch list over to South Jersey Gas for all the work they did in town. We went through, I think we've pared it down to 4 or 5 items that are on the punch list. Put a call into them before the meeting today, wasn't able to get them, but we're gonna stay on them, try to get that work done as quickly as possible.
On Winchester Avenue, we spoke with the contractor, to let him know our displeasure with the schedule, or with the progress, and I believe on Monday they're supposed to bring 2 crews in to speed it up. So, they're a good contractor, we just had to give them a little push.
Thank you, guys.
One question?
Go ahead.
Safe routes to school,
Yes.
where we at?
That was forwarded, the 20-something of December to, the design's done.
Okay.
It was sent to DOT, to Regis. Regis then will look at it, they'll send it to Feds. Feds will give us their approval by 15th of February, and then we'll go out to bid. But it's essentially, the design is done in accordance with the meeting that we had, that we went over the details. And at the one intersection, we're doing it with striping and delineators as a base bid. And should the numbers come in, favorable, we also have the concrete in there as an alternate.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Rich?
I want to start with a question to Ed and Ed. I received a communication from you right before Christmas about asphalt paving systems with a quote for paving the Little League parking lot, which we have been talking about doing.
Yes.
Would that be a change order to the contract for Burke Avenue? Or is that-
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, if I didn't bring my copy, if I could just see. Yeah, this would be, yes, this would be a change order to the Burke Avenue contract.
How much was that contract at?
Oh, shoot, off the top of my-
Approximately, I don't think,
It was-
20% issue, right?
yeah, I don't think we could do it as a change order, but what I'd like you to do is, we have the quote. Take a look at this and see if there's ways we could reduce this cost in some way, and also tell me how competitive this is, because if we do it as a change order, even if we're eligible, I wanna make sure that we have your independent look at the pricing.
Okay.
So I'd like either a recommendation as it relates to engineering, as opposed to, we'll do the finance recommendation to the commissioners. And talking to Commissioner Amadeo, we were wondering whether or not you could consider just overlaying that as opposed to milling and overlaying that, and whether that would make sense, being it's a parking lot, it's not a major road.
And I remember at one point Joe had put together several estimates, including redoing the basketball posts. With the million, with just overlaying, we'd have to look at how we deal with those penetrations in the asphalt. But I certainly will look at it.
I think it's too much money to do as a change order probably anyhow. But I'd like a little bit more analysis.
Absolutely,
before
yeah.
we spend that kind of money on this.
Yeah, because we do have several small change orders on that project already, unfortunately, and that may exceed it, but without those change orders, I think we were just okay. We'll look at what else we can do on that lot, because we have to be cognizant of the basketball,
Let's talk about it at the next capital meeting, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
from
but I'll have all your answers then.
today. All right. Independent of engineering. Right before the holidays, the clerk's office did what they normally do with your authorization, and that is held an auction for the ice cream vendors. And as you recall, the ice cream vendors have been auctioning for a number of years here, and we award a single contract. We had controversies 2 years ago with respect to the bid. We bid again last year. And you know, the beaches were essentially usable last year in almost an entire season. But the beaches are larger, which makes it that much more difficult for vending on the beaches, but then it gives you that much more chance for sales as well. That whole change, together with the fact that we did the bidding so early, and we've had some comments since that people didn't bid because we require a deposit to be put down and held until such time as they front the entire amount of the contract to us in the spring. We don't want to be left without a bidder in the spring. We moved it up for a variety of reasons, but there's some people who don't want to make a commitment in December for a July bid. So as a result of that, we got nobody chose to bid with a $50,000 minimum contract in a live auction. That gives us a couple of options. I've talked to Roger, our purchasing person, I've talked to Johanna. My recommendation is delay this till March and to go back with a live auction. We've done the live auctions for a number of years. Let's try it one more time and see, overcome the problem that somebody would have to put money down in December, that they don't want to put money down. They had to put $20,000 down, which is a lot of money to put down. So my recommendation is to go out to bid again in March. I just want to get a confirmation from the commissioners. I believe, unless the law has changed, if we go out to bid twice and don't get any bids, we can negotiate a contract under certain terms. So that's another possibility if we don't get bids in March. If we don't get bids in March, we can lower the initial amount and go out to bid again, or we can go out to bid in a more traditional way, which would be the written, just a written bid. So we have a lot of options open to us, but if we wait to March, do it the first week of March, make a decision in March, we'll still have time to get a vendor on the beach. I think we need to encourage more potential vendors as well. And so any thoughts you have with regard to that? I know Sea City does extremely well, and they're about the same size as we are. Other towns do it differently. I know Ventnor's considering going out to bid. They don't do it that way. But the reason why we do it is, first of all, just to have one vendor and don't have multiple people hawking anything on the beach other than ice cream. Just have one vendor hawking ice cream, which is advantageous to the public, it seems to us. And we certainly get a guaranteed revenue, which is something that's important to the city as well. So I leave that recommendation with you, unless you have any different thoughts between now and a month from now. We're going to plan on going out to bid in March again.
I'm good with that, John. You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it, Rich. Thanks for the recommendation.
Okay. Really, I think that's all I have, because I did want to talk about the engineering question, which I just did. So I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Johanna?
Rich covered what we needed to discuss. All else is well.
Thank you. Fred?
Everything is fine, thank you.
Dan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First off, Happy New Year to everyone. We hope 2019 is going to be a wonderful, outstanding year. I'm anticipating that myself because I have a lot of positive things going to happen in 2019, so it's going to be a great year. The fire department's preparing the 2018 year-end report, and basically at this point in time, the call volume is still up approximately 200-plus calls over 2017. One other thing I just want to say in light of the recent fire in Ocean City is one of the neighbors heard something earlier in the night around 1:30 or 2 o'clock and didn't call or say something. They said it sounded like construction work or something like that at that hour. All I'm saying to our residents is if you hear something out of the ordinary at any hour of the night, please call 911, inform our people, and let us investigate, because the outcome of that could have been a lot different had someone reported it sooner. And it does happen, and we were lucky, and it was actually in the press article about the little girl who spotted that fire. But at that same fire, nobody sees that. Even during the daylight hours, could have been the same outcome as Ocean City. So if anybody hears anything out of the ordinary out there during the night or that, don't just ignore it. Please call 911 and report it so at least someone can go out and investigate. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan, question, Mayor. Just of a point of interest as the way the fire department works and the way the departments work for mutual aid, I did read, and have not had a chance to talk to you directly, but did read that you were called in for mutual aid for the Ocean City fire. What role were you asked to play with respect to that?
We have an actual agreement with the City of Ocean City Fire Department and the city to do what's called, on a working fire, we do automatic mutual aid for a rapid intervention team. And what that basically is a team of firefighters that's assembled, usually a minimum of 4, that are prepared to go into service in the event that something happens to another firefighter that's operating on the scene. And we have that kind of reciprocal with them and also with our neighbors to the north, Ventnor City. And we utilize Longport as well for mutual aid, but we have that agreement with Ocean City, and any of our working fires, they're called, and anywhere in Ocean City. And that, kind of ironically, you say that was at 49th Street. You know, it does take our guys a little bit of time to get there, but, you know, I got kudos from Chief Smith on the actions of our personnel that were there, very professional, and he was happy to have them and their assistance. So it's something we'll reciprocate to anyone when called upon, but it does work well with Ocean City.
I appreciate it because I know just a month earlier there was a major fire in Sea Isle, and there was a death in that fire, and they didn't call in the aid so quickly. So I wanted you to be able to emphasize the importance of mutual aid and the automatic response that you just indicated, so that it's automatic. It's not like, well, maybe we'll need them and maybe we won't, and so forth.
Yeah, and we actually, in January of 2013, I'm dating myself a few years now because we're 6 years from that, after we had the fatal fire in Margate City, we changed our whole operational guidelines with mutual aid, and we instituted automatic mutual aid with Longport for any reported fire in both municipalities. We're both responding simultaneously. And the thought process there was we're very grateful for the volunteers and the service they provide, but the sooner we can call them, the sooner we can activate them, the quicker their response will be to us, versus us waiting to arrive on scene and find out that there's a fire. We're calling them initially on dispatch, which helps both of us dramatically. And we'll continue to work the mutual aid, and we've worked well with our surrounding communities, Ventnor, Longport, and Ocean City. But yeah, thank you.
Anything else, Dan?
That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. John, do you have anything?
Mayor, before the conclusion of this meeting, yes, I did want to mention a couple things. I've had a few requests from individuals that are interested, and I think it's a good idea, and we spoke about it in the past at our workshop meeting. As we're coming to conclusion with the work on our beaches, the dunes, as everybody witnessed in the last season, the crossovers have a cutout on the top that allow where the post and rail fence is for an area, a resting area. And we've had requests from residents to possibly donate benches and memorial plaques along those street ends that would be, in honor of individuals or, in memory of deceased family members. So I think it's a discussion that we have to continue because there's been several people requesting it. And it would be a benefit to the general public to have a seating area at the top, which there's an area, I guess it's 10 by 10 area, which we could put probably 2 benches facing each other. And I see the benches we have at the ballpark, they were made of composite material, and they've been there for probably since the renovation that we did back in early 2000, right? In 05. So they're 13 years old, and they look like they're brand new. So I think it's something that this commission could consider moving forward.
And if I'm not I'm
I
sorry.
agree with you, John. I support that. And
All right,
people
well-
have asked me also.
Right, and my thoughts were, Ms. Baselli's here, if we could give her the opportunity to work with the general public, we could probably put something in the Current and in the Down Beach blogs to let the residents know that there will be available, for purchase, and we can do our homework and see what the cost of the benches are. It would be, there would be no profits made, whatever the cost of the bench is, and if a person would like to put a plaque on it, as I know many municipalities do it, you can see it in Ventnor along the streets and in Linwood along the bike path. So I think it would be a nice program to start. They'll be leaving the beach hopefully sometime in March, meaning the Army Corps of Engineers. So we'll hopefully have our beaches back, and it'll give a nice setting area for people coming off the beach. The only other comment I have is for those who enjoyed the concert, as I know you did the other night, I want to thank the Margate Library and all that were involved, Dr. Gigrich, who is the president of the Bay Atlantic Symphony. What a great performance and great entertainment on New Year's Eve and naturally all Margate residents are entitled to tickets, and that's through our library. It was a great performance and a great evening, and what a great way to start off the new year. So I know the people that were there really enjoyed it, and it was a great program. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, John. If you've never been to a concert, you really should go. It's really a wonderful night. With that, I have nothing else. We will open to public comment. You have 3 minutes. You can speak on anything that was discussed at today's meeting. Is there any public comment?
Sewell, 22 West Drive. 2 quick questions. The first to our esteemed solicitor. He was mentioning...
John. Comment, not question and answer.
Well, it's a comment that deserves elaboration, Mayor. The solicitor mentioned the Dredge Committee, and in passing, you also mentioned grants. Mentioned grants. And I think that the public and the property taxpayers are fully entitled to know what proportion of this project will be covered by grants and what proportion will be covered by the property taxpayers. This is a critical question. It has been avoided and evaded and hasn't been directed. And I think the property taxpayers should be fully informed, and this should be a transparent operation. I don't think we need any nefarious type of last minute being bagged on this project. I think it should be upfront from the get-go. We should know precisely how much this project's going to cost and when it is going to cost the taxpayers, tax year 2019, tax year 2020, the census year. And last but not least, a quick question to Ed Walburn concerning the parking lot in the Little League. Is this part of the $2 million Field of Dreams project? Is this an additional expenditure? And the amount of money that is being designated or requested for this project, Mayor, after we went from $1 million to $2 million under your supposed leadership, Mayor? This project doubled in cost. with dubious results. Now I think we should ask the question again, what is this parking lot for the Little League going to run? I think taxpayers are entitled in this re-election year to have a transparent status on this project. And I think you owe it to the taxpayers to let them know precisely what this project is going to run. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, John.
You can keep the remaining 49 seconds.
Okay. I got it.
We'll bank that, John.
Thank you. A credit on the next session.
I'll remember that.
Not in my lifetime, John. Any other public comment?
Good afternoon, Ray Romito, 9408 Amherst Avenue. I just want to thank the fire department. The Friday after Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law fell down, broke her hip. We dialed 911. The fire department came. The people that were there were extremely professional. She was 86 years old. They took care of her, transported her to the hospital, and did a wonderful job. So my kudos to you, and let you know that you need to hear some good stuff too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, while we're on the subject, I'll intervene here. A couple weeks ago, I needed a ride to the hospital, and my family called the fire department. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. They said, Danny, I want to thank you and all your men, which I've already done. And I just want the public to know, it was just a wonderful, warm feeling. I had that need. I felt reassured. Obviously, I survived, thank God. I know you may not be happy with that, John, but it's all right. It's okay. It's just a wonderful place to be. Thank you again, John, Danny. Thank you for your guys. I really do. Open up again, public comment, please. Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll move to close public comment.
I'll second that motion.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
so moved.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
We will take a 5-minute break and begin public